Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Katania Alvin speaking from London, just about 2.5 miles away from the City of London. This is mainly about Brexit, not surprising at all, and thank you very much Elite Plus for putting this one up, which is titled Brexit, EU Crisis, and some hard questions. And here we've got at Bill Etheridge speaking at the EU Parliament, and I had to laugh. At one point Verhofstadt talks about democracy and the European Union democracy, and I think that it's run by 8 unelected officials. Well, that's the first time I've thought that unelected is about democracy. Interesting. Bill Etheridge is asking about the upcoming elections of the European Parliament and how the choice that's coming up for the UK, how will that fit into the timing? Okay, this is very important.
Happened when we come to a final withdrawal agreement, assuming that you're managed to get one, how is it signed off?
No, I was only saying that if you don't do, for whatever reason, if you don't do, and
I have to go back to that.
Assuming that you're managed to get one, how is it signed off?
No, I was only saying, I'll be very clear, that
this is point 759.
Normally you have to organize your elections. If you don't do, for whatever reason, if you don't do, and we have our elections in the 27, these people elected in the 27 can constitute a parliament that can act, that can be...
So a deal could be signed off without British MEPs?
Right, so what he's saying, so a deal can be signed off without the MEPs.
Yeah, you cannot, not one member state, by not organizing elections, cannot undo the whole system of European democracy and of the European Parliament. You can...
European democracy, did you hear that?
I don't know, convicted before a court, I presume, in Britain.
Yeah, and if we do, we get convicted in front of a court, and Europe, as it stands at the moment, European court is higher than British law, and that's what was in one of the agreements, Article 4.
But it will not block the European Parliament to act, because otherwise, whatever country, big or small, can block European democracy and European decision-making by not organizing its election.
He's obviously got that so clear in his head, he can't even think the EU is not a democratic organization. It's obviously, by his body language, he's totally convinced.
That's not possible.
And probably many of the other sheeple states are the same, but many people within those sheeple states, or that were sovereign countries, are really not very happy, and they're getting political parties up and running, just as Five Star in Italy did, to actually start to remove themselves from this hideous, in quotes, experiment that's the beginning of the one world satanic order under other names, and they're leaving. They're planning their exit too.
So it's conceivable the final document, the final withdrawal agreement, could conceivably be done and signed off, because it has to be passed in a vote here, without British MEPs actually voting on it.
Right, that the final withdrawal could be done there in the Parliament without British MEPs. That's because if it's after the voting in the EU, you'd have to decide whether the MEPs are going to go to all that expense, all that time, to actually run as a member of the MEP.
That's the question I'm asking.
Yeah, but that's yours. That I don't know. That will be the decision in Britain, not the decision here.
Interesting how this scratching his ear, and he doesn't know. He can't actually give a straight answer.
Expensive speech. I said you'd be the quiet assassin of nation-state democracy.
Now this is Nigel Farage at another time, way before. Very good speech.
And sure enough, in your dull...
And I'm also going to bring in and screenshot for you an extremely good part speech of Enoch Powell.
Technocratic way, you've gone about your course, but I have to say, you're even worse than I thought you were going to be. I thought it was just going to be a federal Europe, a federal union. But actually it appears, with every statement you make, that what you now want is the total subjugation of the states to completely undemocratic structures based in Brussels.
Exactly. Exactly.
I read the bailouts. I thought that when the bailouts happened, and I could see the panic around this chamber, people fearing...
I have a feeling this is about 2008. The European Union set up the budgets that the member states were allowed, and so many things were cut. Our fire stations were cut, services to elderly people were cut, libraries were cut, all manner of stuff.
Economic meltdown, but you of course were calm through it all, because you saw the bailouts as your opportunity to take control. Just think how Ireland today is managed, Greece for that matter.
Greece was absolutely stripped in a terrible state.
Sinister sounding troika come in, 50 officials, spend a few days in the country, investigate the situation, and then tell puppet prime ministers what they may or may not do. And I note great enthusiasm in this chamber for Spain to have a bailout. Lots of members here want Spain to accept the bailout so that they too are subjugated to this new order. Indeed, in Italy, the appointee there, Mr. Monti, is very keen for his own country to be bailed out because, to quote him, he fears that parliamentary democracy could bring down the European Union. So I think it's pretty clear that...
True parliamentary democracy will bring down the European Union. It's on the cusp. It's collapsing.
Your next phase...
And rightly so.
...is for those that haven't been bailed out and may not need to be bailed out. You now want them to sign guarantees, budget guarantees, and to have the power to strike down national budgets after they have been through parliaments. I have to say, I feel that the Eurozone is now in a very dark place, economically, socially, politically, and I fear that the countries trapped inside it, in that prison, will be there for many years to come. So it's odd against this backdrop that the Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to the European Union.
Oh, what a nonsense.
It's true that Germany hasn't invaded France since 1945, but I don't think there was any prospect of that happening, unless, of course, what you're all saying is that the Germans are inherently bad people. No, the threat actually came from Russia, and we should be thanking NATO, and we should be thanking millions of American soldiers who served on European soil to maintain peace.
Now, what I want to say, that was a Russia that was a communistic Russia. It was not the Russia of Putin, a very different situation.
Yet I don't hear a word of...
And also, it wasn't the USA of President Trump, also a very different situation.
That, because we loathe America and everything that it stands for. No, this is now a divided, split Europe, with neo-Nazi politics on the rise, with violent demonstrations in the streets, and I frankly think that the award of that Nobel Prize devalues that whole organisation. Well, it's not all bad news, because in Britain the opinion polls are clear that a clear settled majority of Brits now want to leave this union, leaving David Cameron as piggy in the middle, trying to pretend to be a Eurosceptic when he comes over here, going back home and claiming victories, but he's stuck. And I predict one thing, big political change is coming in Britain because he's losing the support of millions of his own voters. Thank you.
Excellent. As fate does, or law of attraction, up popped this very interesting one, Enoch Powell's EEC, that's European Economic Council, I think, and EU. The word prophecy. It's not prophecy. It's out of understanding the origins of where this EEC and EU arose. And this is where the wisdom of people like Enoch Powell, people like, in America, Lyndon LaRouche, and it was, he could forecast because he knew the background. It was the study of the history that gave him the knowledge of forecasting. So I'm going to play a bit of this, and he starts with, I've just missed it, the British people. All these links will be in the description box. Do go and watch them.
The British people are about to have practiced upon them a a trick even cruder and more shameless than that by which they were cheated out of their inheritance of parliamentary self-government in the first place.
Now, this word trick, the British establishment, that's the governments of the day, Committee 300, don't forget that. Go into your research and get up links of Dr. John Coleman talking about that. Very interesting, very important, because they have been through much propaganda, but the evilness of trickery and tricking the British people
are about to have practiced upon them a trick even cruder and more shameless than that by which they were cheated out of their inheritance of parliamentary self-government in the first place when we acceded to the European Economic Community. However, since the trick is basically the same one over again, it is to be hoped that the people will not be taken in twice, but will listen to those who warned them correctly before. When the proposal that Britain should join the common market was put forward in 1971 and 72, and again when at the referendum it was proposed that British membership should be confirmed, the public were told, officially and solemnly by the political parties, that the British Parliament would lose none of its effective power. British ministers, it was said, could always veto whatever appeared to them to be contrary to British national interests. They dare not agree to anything that Parliament disapproved. Those who warned that the first step was being taken towards the political unification of Western Europe and the degrading of the United Kingdom to the status of a European province were laughed to scorn. They were told.
The degrading, that's also what immigrants coming in, not to be critical of another human being, but with a standard of living and a standard of behavior far distant from the majority of British people at that time. Things have dropped drastically since then in many areas, through overcrowding in certain areas, complete change of the demographics of nations or of nationals.
And any such development, if it ever took place, would be many years, perhaps generations in the future. The referendum had not been over for 6 months before the government and the political parties were singing a different tune. The veto, it appeared, was more often a veto in reverse, a veto which others could use against what we wanted or proposed, but which we could not use to protect ourselves against what we did not want. A classic example is fishing, where unless the rules of a community are changed, the fleets of all the other members will be able to fish right up to our beaches. We cannot veto this because it's in the treaty which the Conservative government signed and the Labour government failed to renegotiate. It is the status quo.
Please watch and listen to his entire speech. He is a brilliant orator, but he's speaking heartfelt, common sense. That's the heart and the mind, the rational mind, working together. What a wonderful man. God bless everyone, and thanks to these people that have put these videos up, and I can bring them together and share them with you. This is Catania Alvin saying have a brilliant day, stay centered, stay joyful, and honor your truth. God bless. Bye-bye.